Hello everyone, my name is Aldrine Guerrero, joined by Magic Mike Odo. Say what's up, Magic Mike.
What's up, guys?
Aaron the voice now, Commerce. What's up, Aaron?
What's up?
Kahai the legend Fergus. What's up, Kahai?
What's up?
Welcome to Thursday Live Lessons. It is a brand new month. That means we have resident music expert Mike Odo in the house. So whatever questions you guys may have, that's how this show works. This is basically a Q&A show, but we just kind of talk ukulele. It's off any kind of ukulele subject that we can think about, right? And we talk to it at length, and we take one of your questions. I kind of give my answer, but then I open it up for discussion. That's why these three other guys are here, and we'll discuss it amongst ourselves, and hopefully we can come out with a nice discussion about it, and give you guys a little bit more information, and not just the answer, but the answer and some background, some more information about it, and actually some of our own ideas about whatever questions that you guys may have. All right, so let's start things off. Kahai, do we have any questions lingering this past week for our friend here?
Yeah, we have a couple questions, not necessarily directly for Mike, but Mike can probably tune in.
Cool beans.
This is from John F, and he said, "I have had to send my ukulele back for an exchange for a different ukulele. In the meantime, is there anything I can do to help me learn how to strum with my pointer finger? I have no problem strumming with my thumb, but when I switch to the pointer finger, it becomes difficult to not only keep a beat, but to work the fretboard as well. I strum with my thumb for years, and it feels very natural to me, but I also want to learn how to use the finger. Any suggestions?"
Okay, well, you don't necessarily have to have an ukulele to be able to practice rhythm. I mean, rhythm can be practiced anywhere. So from that question, it seems to me like it's not just like a strumming question. It's just kind of keeping in rhythm. So you while you wait for your ukulele to come, you want to kind of just keep that in check, and just even when you're driving, like just kind of tapping on your steering wheel, anything, tapping your feet, and anything to kind of stay in rhythm with anything that you're listening to, or maybe a TV show like has some kind of music or something. Even if you're just trying to come up with with a beat on your metronome. So if you put your metronome on and it goes tap, and just you using your mouth going pop 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 pop, like that's all rhythm practices, because you're technically doing anything as long as you're following something, you're working on your rhythm. Now if you want to work on strums specifically, it's it might be a little bit tricky not having your ukulele with you. If you have any ukulele, it should be fine. Even if you have a $5 like ABC store ukulele, it should be good, because you're not worried about your left hand. If you're worrying about strumming, place your left hand over your strings and just kind of do this. So if you're older and you have kids and stuff, and your kids might have a plastic uke sitting around or something, you just grab that plastic uke and just kind of do this. You don't need a $1,000, $10,000, $100,000 ukulele in order to just practice your strumming. You can practice strumming, with any instrument. And even if you don't have your ukulele, so this is where it gets a little bit tricky. I like to just kind of make the movements like wherever I can. And what I'm doing is I'm using my nail to kind of slide off whatever surface that I'm doing it to. So for example, this kind of eclipse gum. So if I just go like this, I'm just practicing getting the feel of my of my nails is kind of sliding off like whatever I'm using. For example, this eclipse gum container. You can do that. You can do it to here's this microphone stand from the side. You can do that. It's not gonna hurt, because all you're doing, if it hurts, that means you're strumming too hard. And really all it is you're just kind of working on getting the top of your nails to slide off whatever surface that you're doing it to. But just getting your rolls down. So not necessarily like down, with your pointer finger. If you're doing a down up, it might be a little bit more tricky. Depends on the surface that you're using. But definitely a down with a roll. You can work on your rolls. You can work on down strums if you want to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then roll 2, 3, 4. You can still do that with whatever surface that you can find, because it makes it easy to use your strumming hand if you use your nail, because your nail will just slide off, right? So because it slides off, as long as you have the right positioning on your fingers, positioning on your hand, if you have the right that's the word I'm looking for. Form. If you have the right form, it should, just like slide off. And that's good too, because it's a good check on your form. If it's not doing that, then that means you gotta you gotta look at what your form looks like. You gotta look at and make make adjustments. So for myself, my form, I've played ukulele for a long time, so whatever I'm doing here, I can translate that into any surface, even if it's a flat surface. So all I'm doing all this slow. I'm using the nail to just kind of slide off whatever surface that I'm using, because that's what it'll do, And you want that light touch. If it's not sliding off, or if it's kind of doing this, that means it's too much. It's too much pressure. You're putting too much.
Yeah, or your hand
down.
is in position correctly.
Yeah, exactly. So look at your
just
form,
have to have
positions.
Yeah.
It should all just kind of do it, and you want like a light touch. So I'm not like digging in on whatever surface that I'm using. I'm just hitting it right at the right at the tip, because that's what you should be doing on your ukulele anyway. You're not digging in.
Well, even with if you're just strumming with your pointer finger by itself, it should be the same.
Just a
concept.
light touch.
Yeah.
So that's that's one way to kind of practice your strumming, practice on rhythm and stuff. You can do it on any surface. Like I said, it's going to be a little tricky because it's going to feel a little different because of the surface, but the form on your hand should be the same. Yeah. What do you think, Mike? You have any suggestions? Somebody who doesn't have their instruments but still wants to practice rhythm?
There's a million things you can do. You could probably pull up MP3s.
Mm-hmm.
MP3s of your favorite songs and see if you can tap along to the beat.
Yeah.
One of the, of course, if you go to school for music, the metronome becomes like your best friend and your worst enemy. It's both at the same time.
Love, hate, more hate than love.
More hate than love. But there was also some other ways my teachers used to tell me to help develop my rhythm. Is, for example, just put on a great CD. Okay, when I was either playing drums or I was playing bass, they tell you put on these CDs, these classic jazz or rock albums, and play along with it, because music is one of those things where it's not necessarily always this. Sometimes music is about listening to the organic speeding up and slowing down. Right. But that's also good for your rhythm because that means you're paying attention to what's going on around you. So if you can play along with a classic album, the one I used to use all the time was Birth of the Cool by Miles Davis. I also use Kind of Blue by Miles Davis. Yeah. And I would just play along with it. I knew the chords. I would just turn the stereo. If I was playing bass, I would just turn the stereo and turn the bass frequency all the way down so the bass player wasn't quite so prominent. And I'd turn the recording up and see if I could just play bass along with this amazing other four guys. And so I was.
It doesn't have to be that complicated, like something as complicated that. But that's a good practice.
And the thing is, a lot of older stuff like that isn't very complicated music. Miles, Kind of Blue is a very simple album. A lot of the tunes are more mid-tempo. There's nothing like super fast on it.
Wasn't Kind of Blue like the birth of like soft jazz or whatever like they call it?
Oh, you mean like smooth jazz?
It's smooth jazz. That's that's like kind of what started the the ball rolling.
Birth of the not that one. Birth of the Cool would have been considered the birth of what's called cool jazz.
Cool jazz, smooth and cool.
So Kind of Blue was more of a traditional swinging jazz. Birth of the Cool had kind of that. It was one of the first albums that really encapsulated kind of what you would think of the West Coast version of jazz in the 50s and 60s. Prior to that, New York was, of course, and still for many people is the core. It's the home of modern jazz. Traditional jazz, obviously, down in New Orleans. Modern jazz up in New York. But then one of the hallmarks of jazz in that era was it was bebop music, which was usually like super fast. Like 300 beats a minute plus.
It doesn't have to be. It could be something as slow as to be loved. Oh, what a feeling!
That's a great song.
Yeah.
And it's just things like that. Learning to fit in with that helps your rhythm too. One of the things that's really important is to realize that there's two parts to rhythm generally. There's your internal rhythm, which is your ability. So if I tell you strum eighth notes, your internal rhythm is helping you keep that even. Okay? And internal rhythm is super important, obviously, because if you don't have this, you can't move on to the second part of it, which would be playing with other people.
Yeah,
the
so
ability
locking in,
locking into other people,
other people's grooves.
That's I think that's what they said. That is the difference between like modern instrumentalists or modern people who play in a band like jazz or rock or everything like that versus like somebody who plays classical music. Is that they said like classical musicians have a harder time locking in with other people because they take
to
cues
play
from conductors.
Conductor. There was a guy, he used to run a band. His name was Randy Watson, and he used to say that it was more important for the band. He wasn't always looking for guys who could play everything on their instrument. He was looking for guys who could play together as one group. And that was more important to him than
having virtuosos.
Because sometimes, if you are a virtuoso, or especially if you are a soloistic player. Okay, so I will tell you this story, and I can't name any names because one of them probably watches this. But a friend, one of my friends, who is a fabulous drummer, he was talking about these two different piano players he was playing with over the course of a festival weekend.
Okay.
And one of them was his favorite piano player in the world.
Okay.
Really organic. They would always lock in really, really well. And the other, he says he loves his playing and it's great playing, but he's hard to play with because he will constantly be pushing the beat, pulling the beat, doing all sorts of stuff to it.
Yeah.
And my friend said, it's harder to play with him because there's that constant. The piano player is constantly kind of flowing within himself and not always within the context of the group they're playing with, and that is really important when it comes to rhythm.
Yeah,
because
all
very guilty ukulele players that I know.
I feel like
with on a regular basis.
I feel like you're making up a story, but it's actually me that you're talking
about. Piano player.
Yeah. I feel like.
but and so he said that it was, and one of the things we attributed it to was because in the piano player's normal gigs, 95% of what he does is solo. He plays in bars and cabarets and stuff by himself. So he doesn't. So in a sense, he has perfect rhythm within himself. I mean, and he's got great time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But no one can read your mind if you're gonna go slow or fast.
Exactly. And he sings a lot too when he plays.
Right.
So part of the thing is sometimes he'll adjust the piano around what he's singing to accentuate the phrasing he's doing.
I feel like you're still talking about it.
I think you can probably relate to this, Aldrine, where I feel like I have an easier time keeping a steady rhythm if I'm hearing actual drums being played or like another guitar or ukulele being some other instrument rather than the metronome where it's like tack 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 tack. Because then when I'm doing that, like if I'm recording like a guitar line and I'm listening to the metronome, I think I just told you, right? I had to take out the first beat, like the first beat indicator, because that started messing me up where I started syncopating it too. I was like, why can't I get this? So I took it off and I just made it all like,
same.
So it's almost like a hi-hat, with the drummer.
Well, actually a good exercise for that too, for those of you who play with metronomes, is when you do that, and this is a jazz-based exercise, obviously, but if you listen to jazz, the hi-hat opens and closes on 2 and 4. So set your metronome to half the speed of what you want to do, and think about that as 2 and 4, and see if you can play around that.
I do the total opposite. I was gonna say it 2 times, because I would do it 2 times. So instead of say 90 beats per minute, it's 180. Because for me, it's the empty space that gets me. Because there's so much empty space, I feel like I'm anxious, to get to the next beat or whatever. The anxiety just comes up. But if it's like dook, 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 I'll know exactly. There's something
segmented
filled.
Enough where you know.
Well, that makes sense though, jazz.
There's enough space too. Sometimes when I'm playing and I pick, and the worst is when you have to hold something, right, and then you have to wait 2 measures before you hit something else again because you're just waiting there and it's just like you're in your head like, okay, counting 1, 2, 3. Oh no, I missed the 1. Oh, 2, 2, 3. No, 3. I think I'm on 3. Oh, now it's like you're off, like whatever. It's like
but if you just do exercise like that long enough, it will start to become more and more easy. It's just one of those things. Yeah, it's a 2 and 4 exercise like that will be really tough at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I understand what you're doing too, because you're more thinking, when you double the speed, you're thinking in subdivision.
Yes.
Which is what we were always taught to do in band. Subdivide the beat.
Because, I have a down up. So if I have like a beat for every down up that I'm doing.
You can match it.
Yeah, I can kind of match it. Yeah.
Yeah. But also taking parts away is also useful too, because we would have a tendency then, if we only hear 2 and 4, so rest, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3, we will have the tendency to rush through the silent beats. And if you really learn how to play a line through that, then it means not only are you learning to land the right notes on those clicks, but what you're also doing is you're learning how to evenly space out during the silence.
Yeah, that's tough.
Well,
it is very tough.
That's kind of developing your internal rhythm in reference to something else.
Right. Yeah. Now, keep in mind, this exercise is completely about internal rhythm. Once you actually start playing with the drummer, I mean, his foot, his left foot, which is the one for the hi-hat, that little symbol that goes like this. Yeah, maybe it's not going to be dead set metronome. Maybe not. But if he's a good drummer, it's going to be relatively consistent.
And it shouldn't be always on beat.
No.
If it's always on beat perfect, it sounds way too mechanical.
Well, there's a type of music that does that. It's called EDM. Look, if you love that style of music, if you live in Zion during the time of the Matrix, obviously EDM is what you only listen to. Super obscure reference. Everybody's seen the second movie. But if you have, but if you like that, that makes perfect sense for a dance thing. Okay. But generally, when musicians are playing together, the thing is, if the 4 of us played any song together, we would all be feeling the song the way we feel it with our internal rhythm. But then we would also have to be able to expand our hearing so that I hear what the 3 of you are doing, and we all kind of find that place right in the middle that we all kind
relative.
Yeah, exactly. If I'm hearing everything right on the beat and just play like that, and you guys all hear it really relaxed, then what's going to happen is going to sound like I'm rushing. Even though
behind the
even if we are all hearing the metronome in the same way, it'll sound like I'm rushing. If I'm going bum 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 bum, and you guys are all kind of laying back.
I had that.
So it's 2 things you got to figure out.
I had a similar problem when I was recording my second album. I have a track that Aaron wrote, which is is it Replay? Replay in a second, and it's a reggae, like a reggae song. And I go in the studio and Dr. Trey is like, all right, go ahead and give me an ukulele rhythm part. I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm feeling out the drums, going, I'm doing this. He's like, no, you have to go behind the beat. I was like, okay, I guess. So I'm following the metronome and I'm hitting it right on. He's like, Dr. Trey's like, no,
that's
you need to go behind the beat. You need to do any kind of reggae rituals so that you go behind the beat. I'm like, no, just give me a few more. And then I'm like, okay, well, maybe if Ryan does it first, and I'll just follow Ryan's beat, and then Ryan goes up and he records his part and stuff, and same thing. And guys, do you guys not play reggae? You gotta go behind the beat and stuff. So we had to call up our bass player Ariki, who actually produced my first album. He also plays drums, also plays all these other instruments. So he came in there, did the guitar part, just played it perfect. I'm like, what is the difference between that and what me and Ryan are doing? He's behind the beat.
Plays,
and then he even he pulled up my track and stuff, and you could see that it's just behind, just behind. Whereas me and Ryan's were perfectly lined up with each other. Right. And then I turned to Ryan, I'm like, okay, that's good.
Oh, you were talking about not being able to play reggae. I thought they were talking about me now.
Oh no! Oh yeah, we've
had this moment.
It is a thing. Like I can't even play reggae, and I noticed that you couldn't do it.
I really can't play reggae.
That's what
to be fair, I told her he didn't tell me it was gonna be reggae, and as soon as we started, he's like, "Don't you play reggae?" I was like, "I've never played reggae. I was playing drums.
It's like drums.
I've never played reggae drums."
Have you played reggae bass? Do you have a problem? Have a hard time with that too?
No, and that's but where the beats all drop is different. You know,
so you drop.
That's what happened with like Questlove, right? He was like recording, and then they're like, he played like he first learned like how to play really in the pocket, and then when he was recording R&B, they're like, no, make it like sloppier.
Yeah,
and he's like, if I make it any more sloppier, like people are gonna get on my case, like, he's like, other drummers are gonna think I'm terrible, and they're like, no, they're gonna know that you're doing this on purpose. He's like, I don't know, guy, I guess, and he did it, and he's like, oh, okay, like in the context of the song, I can hear what you guys were going for, like,
and you're not gonna know that unless you jam with like other people, you know, like if you're just a drummer and you just have that, you just have that metronome beat. You're just trying to follow,
and it's a matter of where he comes from too. The thing with Questlove is his whole concept when he came out was listening to like the break beats from the rap albums, which are basically just like 2-bar loops.
Yeah,
which is
so they're perfect.
So they're perfect.
Yeah,
it's that 2 bars over and over and over again. And since that's the kind of stuff he was playing for, it was in that context. He is pretty much a perfect drummer for that. He's the guy who doesn't have to hit cymbals and do any of that stuff.
Yeah, he just goes straight.
Goes.
Yeah.
I think he actually said that the reason why he played drums was because his dad always thought that he was going to be a Motown musician and play drums for Motown, and where it's like very, I think he even said I don't know if his dad was like a part of like an army band or something where, they're very in the pocket on the beat. So that's what he started learning. And then when he like came into hip hop, he's like, what is this? Why are you guys all playing wrong? I don't understand why you guys are playing so off, and kind of relearning how to play too, like just learning how to not be so like on it.
Yeah, or it's just more like adapting to what is being played, right?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So
following.
Now, for those of you, here's the one I probably never told you. A concept for understanding in front of the beat, behind the beat, in front of the beat. The great bass player Charles Mingus had this idea of rotary time perception. Okay? So imagine a little ball in front of your head that spins around your head like this.
Yeah.
And right here, when it's right in front of you, is the metronome click. Okay. So when it's coming here, if you play here, you will be playing in front of the beat. You play here, you're going to be on the beat, and if you play here, you're playing behind the beat. So it's something that I learned, and then it actually was kind of useful because it almost gave me like a visual to work with of when I was supposed to be hitting these things. So if I could kind of envision that ball in front of my face whenever I hear the metronome click, then I would realize that as soon as I saw the ball moving here in tempo, that was where to play it. And then I would work to play right there all the time. And that worked for my playing ahead of the beat, on the beat, and then behind the beat. It's sometimes for some of us, we're oral learners. We have to hear it. Some people are visual learners. You have to see it. And if that happens to be you, that concept can work really, really well because it's giving you something to see that you can then relate back to your playing.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to, just before going back to the original question, I wanted to say before I forget, in Ukulele 100, we talk about using like a shaker or something like that. Not only for rhythm, but to use to figure out the proper form for your strumming. So I got
this.
Yeah, one.
The actual shaker.
Yeah.
But then, I think going off of that too, so John said that he uses his thumb mostly to strum. I think that's like the biggest difference between using your thumb and your pointer finger is like most thumbs or like there isn't really an up strum to thumb strumming, right?
Yeah, it's more if you're thumb strumming, it's usually more down, all down strums. Yeah.
So the correlation, like it's easy to go like do a down strum usually with your pointer finger if you know how to do a down strum with your thumb, because it's kind of the same thing, but it's really important to get that up strum.
Yeah. Okay, so kind of just go really quick.
Okay. So if you hold your shaker and then you just kind of use your wrist to get the shaker sound, like this, you can kind of get the same like strumming form. You can work on your form. So you hold it between your thumb and your pointer finger and you just like make like your strumming. You're gonna hear the shaker. So that's kind of like when you do like up and down, up, down, up, down, up, down.
Yeah, so and then the important part is like keeping
your forearm and your wrist, like the whole form on your right hand, arm, just to kind of practice it. So if I didn't have my ukulele with me, I'm like sending it away for repairs or whatever. If I just have this, I'm just watching TV.
Or you could keep something underneath your arm.
You have your ukulele, right, Aaron?
Yeah.
Could you like strum something, and can you like do the same strumming motion, but like show like it should match up even without you actually strumming ukulele?
So if we're doing the C,
whatever.
So yeah, so that's kind of a really easy thing that you can do.
Yeah,
you could just
just make one too.
Yeah,
you don't have to
get like a small container.
You get like a paper clip, like like a thing for the holder or whatever for paper clips and stuff. The small one.
So check out Ukulele 100. We kind of go into it in depth.
I think we used like an Advil bottle or like
we had a pill bottle, small pill bottle.
That too. You don't necessarily have to use a shaker. Shakers sound nice and stuff, but not important.
And then kind of going with feeling the weight of the shaker and then just letting that
go naturally go down.
Yeah, because really the strum is like a pulse up. It's not like a down.
Yeah, because the down comes naturally.
Yeah, so if you're thinking using your thumb, you're thinking about pushing it down, but really if you're using your pointer finger naturally, it's more of just a pulse up and letting gravity bring your whole hand down. And that's how you get your like a really natural, easy, relaxed hand for strumming.
Like eventually too, you really do want it to become like where if you hear a song, you can imagine or you can just like kind of air strum to what you think the rhythm is gonna be, right? Because it's like you can tell like, okay, those are down strums, that's an up strum, right? Or like you can at least tell like 1, 2, 3, 4, all the beats, all the 1, 2, 3, 4, all those are down beats, so they should be landing on down strums, generally speaking. Sometimes it's different.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, you can even start like just listening to regular music and still try doing the, use the shaker at first maybe so you get the feel, but then eventually like you can take that away and not have any ukulele and just be like just doing the strumming motion, right?
Just keep the form.
It's going to be a matter of experience too. I mean, those if you played an instrument, any of us again who play, if I hear a bass line, I can sit there and go like this, and get a relative approximation of what I would actually be doing. And that's just a function of time.
Yeah, the more you listen to music, the more that you have experience with your ukulele.
It's true. Yeah, you could play air uke and it would be it would be the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, if he listens to a song, ukulele's not there, but the strumming pattern and where his fingers would even go are pretty much going to be the right ones because he already knows that.
So like strum something, and I'm just gonna go like this. Air strum.
If I did like a
real, like a real thing, and like so for example, I'm listening to to an album, and this is what I'm hearing.
We'll keep C then.
Yeah.
You can see Aldrine's hand is moving,
kind of moving the same
pretty
way.
Much the same way, just syncing up with what the strum would be.
And it's the same form that I would use anyone on my regular ukulele, just without without the uke. So
if you changed chords, you would know what chord that would be. See, or like his hands already go into the right chord,
to the F chord,
because
C chord.
It's just so ingrained.
Yeah.
And that's part of it, right?
Yeah.
Just doing it enough that it becomes part of you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you were saying earlier too. I know there's like people who are more visual learners, so like this part is really hard because it's a auditory practice, right? Like you have to listen, but there is like so much information you can get just from hearing something, even like a simple song where if the chords are changing, usually changes happen on on beat 1,
right?
So you can kind of get that like idea already, like okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, they're changing every 4 counts, or they're changing every 8, and like once you start getting that and you start instinctively recognizing, it makes music so much easier. Like and it makes it easier to, I think, be the musician who like just adapts, right? Because it's not bad, and people like nice people wouldn't be mad at you if you were like, can you like explain this beat to me, right? Or explain what's we moved away from strumming patterns, but like you get like and we've talked about it before, you don't really want to go up to somebody and be like, what's the strumming pattern, can you explain the strumming pattern? Like
Eric Clapton, you would never hear Eric Clapton say what's the strumming pattern. You would never hear Miles Davis say
what's that figure
say, what's the
well, and the thing is with a lot of amazing players like that, well, even you, okay, let's name a song that you play a lot.
Let's Get It On.
Do you play it exactly the same way every single time?
Yes. no. Maybe. I don't. Sometimes not. Yeah.
Yeah. No. And that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
This is a song you've played for years.
Yeah.
You know it inside out.
Yeah.
But who knows? Sometimes you change a chord with an upbeat.
Yeah.
If you want to accent something differently this particular night,
that's true.
you might do all that.
And dynamics and everything.
Just
tempo.
Another real similar story is there was a fabulous New Orleans clarinetist, whose name I do not remember.
Are you still talking about me, Mike?
So he was doing a week's engagement at a club. So one night, he was in New York, I think, and this kid who was going to like music school came up to him before one of the shows and brought him like 3 pages of just music written out. And it's like, what is this? And he said, well, this is your solo on this song from last night. I made a recording of it. Yeah. And I wrote it all out so you could, for you. And he's like, so the 2 things he said was, well, number 1, I can't read any of this. Because he was an all-ear player. He actually couldn't read music. I think he probably a little bit, but he really couldn't read it well. But then the more important part that relates to this is he said, this is really cool, but, honestly, I wouldn't play it this way again, even if I could.
Yeah.
It was a photo in time.
Yeah, it was like, this is what I played on this night at this time because this is what I felt. Now, that being said, you may find similarities. I mean, all of us who do solos, we all have kind of a few go-tos that we're gonna use, especially like in a certain song. If like a certain lick works super well, you might use it a lot in that particular song.
I think you've gotten like in private lessons or one-on-one coaching, right? Somebody's like, oh, you remember when you played Drop Baby Drop on January 17th, and can you show me the solo again? I was like,
I can show you what I usually do.
That's exactly how that lesson went. I'm like, I did this. Was it this?
Yeah.
Like,
and then and a lot of times too, you'll like move on, right? Where you say like, oh, like soloing in this area is good, like for this song or for A and B. But I can't tell you the specific notes I use.
Yeah, and that's why, like, I'm a YouTuber, like, through and through and stuff. And, my early days of YouTube, I was putting up a lot of, like, my arrangements of things. And there's always one comment that I can count on that will be there every single video is, do you have the tabs for this? It's just like...
we still get those.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, and it's almost impossible. It's like that was that performance. It's like, I'm never going to play, like that same way again. Like I always play it differently. Same. And then, that, like what Aaron said, it's a photograph in time. Like that's how I played it that day, that hour, like, because it could be that very same day, 5 minutes later, and I'll be playing it differently. So it's tough to
Absolutely.
I guess I could watch that performance and just and tab it out, but it'd be kind of for nothing, because if I just play it differently, the next time I play it, you guys are like, oh well, you're not playing it the saddest one you did in the tabs. It's
so even Jake has a book of tablature, and it has his official guitar gently weeps.
But he changes that.
But that's why.
Just the intro alone.
So even if he put his
we've all
stamp
seen
on
it probably play it a dozen, at least a few dozen times each, and it's the same song.
And it's him playing.
And it's him playing, but he's never played it the same way twice. Similar, sure, but
I don't think people realize. And me and Aaron write out a lot of the tabs that we put up on the site. But when I write out a tab, I do watch what you play again. And sometimes I'll just write out everything, right? It's I don't know how this rhythm works, so I have to write out everything he does, every upstrum, every downstrum. But then I usually get rid of half of it by end product, because the tab is kind of more of a paint by number than by this is the accurate thing. It's you gotta fill in the blanks. This is the general, lines and everything that happens, but you have to, if you're gonna play this for yourself, you really should take this and fill in the rest of what.
Absolutely. Think about any famous song, like a song that comes to mind, and this is it may sound random, but I think of the song "The Greatest Love of All" by Whitney Houston, and I have heard karaoke, performance, concert. I've heard Whitney Houston sing it a bunch of times, and yet it's the same song, but man, it's different every single time, because whoever's playing it, singing it, might just feel different that night. Maybe they want to go a little slower. Maybe they want to go faster. Maybe they want to hold some note, and they want to hold some note, go like this, and just drop the mic or something like that. You never know what they're gonna want to do.
It's the spur of the moment kind of thing.
That's a great bass player that I listen to a lot, Jeff Berlin, says there's two parts to music always. There's the academic part, and there's the art part. So when you ask us questions about music theory, scales, chords, things like that, that's the academic part, because those things are
we can explain,
basically rules. They're basically rules. Okay, rules you can break. But they are rules, structures. The art part is what you do with all that. And that is, it's coachable, it's suggestible, but never something you can quantify. When you play, no matter, even if you're playing your song or somebody else's song, the learning what the chords were, learning your initial strumming pattern, learning the lyrics, that's the academic part of it. How you play that song, and this is we just talked about.
The phrasing and everything.
The phrasing and everything can change every single week that you play it, and that's the art part. So for those of you out there trying to asking about rhythm, remember that we're talking about the academic part of music, and then putting it into the ability to play with other people. That becomes more of the art part.
Yeah, I mean, the YouTube comments is just so demanding. It's just give me the tabs down, bark like a dog. It's oh jeez, I guess hop on one foot.
I think comments or people who ask questions, it's not bad, and if you guys ask questions, we'll try to answer any question you guys ask.
And that's what the show's about.
But I'm talking about YouTube. The fine people at UU Plus can ask whatever they want. I have no problem. The fine, awesome, amazing people who support this website and then ask very intelligent questions. I'm talking about the maybe not so intelligent ones on YouTube.
Well, let me say this, and this is something one of my teachers taught me. If you see him do something, if you hear something I say or Aaron says or Kahai says, and you're kind of wondering how to make that work, wait a week before you ask us to explain it further. Try it. Just try it first. See what happens. If you have a solo of his you really want to learn, take a week and try and learn it on your own.
Yeah.
And what you'll probably find is, there'll be a good percentage of that if you paid attention to the lessons, there's a good percentage that you should be able to figure out on your own. Now, that being said, if you've been playing ukulele for 4 weeks, don't try and learn Senior Victor. Okay? You'll rip the strings off your ukulele. Try it. But if you've been playing for a few years, you kind of have grasp of the chords and everything like that, and you want to learn Senior Victor, spend a couple weeks trying to learn that on your own. Write out everything that you're like, okay, I think this chord is this one, I think this is this. And then see how much of that you can figure out on your own. Because a lot of us who are good players, there was a lot. I mean, I had great teachers in college, but there was a lot of times my teacher said, go figure it out yourself.
Yeah. Like, that's where the magic happens.
Exactly. And for 2 reasons. Number one, you're training yourself. That ear training that we keep going back to, super important. If you listen to Senior Victor over and over and you try and learn his stuff, that's going to train your ears for the next thing. And then, if you're like, okay, so, that part right before the fight scene, and then, it's like, okay, so how do you do that? That's a question you want to come back with. Like, I have been working on this for 3 weeks, and I just don't know how you get that sound. What are you doing?
Give me, like, how do you play Senior Victor now? Like, do it now.
It's like, can I just download it to my brain?
It's a matrix.
You have that? You have the...
Yeah, I think that some people do ask questions where they want answers. They want like direct guidelines to questions that are more like, it's like, but we can't tell you the direct answer because it's just something that if you do for yourself, you'll figure it out.
Yeah, and like tab is so. I always tell people that I can't read tabs. I mean, truth is I can read a little bit now and stuff, but I can't make it. And it's frustrating when I listen back to myself and I'm like, okay, what did I like? What rhythm did I do? And I'm sure like it's frustrating for like Kai and Aaron like having to animate all these things and put it on the screen exactly what I'm doing. But for them they can leave out like some stuff and keep like the bare bones. But for myself, because I know exactly what I'm doing, I know exactly what's supposed to happen.
Like I graze the string with this part of my thumb
just for a brief second. Yeah, you know what I mean. And I know exactly what I'm doing. And if it's not that on paper, it doesn't translate on paper, and I can't I can't really write down a tabs to a lot of stuff that you do. And I'm sure Jake had the same thing when he made his tab book. It's like you're not gonna get every little every little thing that.
Well, and too,
good enough.
I have a couple of those books. He does do it in notation too, and the big thing of that I think is the tablature is only good to know where you put your fingers.
Yeah,
it doesn't really tell you how loud you're playing, how fast you were playing. It doesn't tell you the inflections, any stuff. That's why I think all of his books have notation plus tab. Because even if you can't really read notation that well, which you probably should learn because it's helpful, there are things in notation that then you can like if he's doing like a fall or like like if you were trying to do that one part in Senior Victor that I really like. How would you possibly tab that?
Yeah.
You can't.
And that's not even right, like, because I have to be into it and do it. Like, it's,
you have to like add extra. Yeah. You have to add extra like written notes to that if you would want to tab.
Or just a little paragraph explaining what's going on.
Exactly.
It's like just glissando.
You might put like 14, 14, 14, going sliding down. Sliding down and out, but then you would have to also put muted and then like do kind of in a free form.
Yeah, that makes sense because you would just write X X X X because you're not playing on any sort of like specific specific fret, but like you don't want. And if someone's gonna be like, okay, it was just X X X X, I'm just gonna like put my hand here and just mute it here, and then you don't get the same effect. But if we put like 14, and then someone watches me live and I do it down here and says like, no, the tab was 18, not, or the tab was 14, but he did it on 18. It's like it's tough. It's tough.
I think like even like you would be able to like get a sheet of music. Talking to Mike, you would be able to get a sheet of music notation, and then like read and then figure out how it's supposed to sound, right?
Right.
But you would it's not even that, like you would still want like some kind of like auditory reference to what it's supposed to sound like, right?
Oh yeah.
Because even music notation, there's a limit to how much detail you can put on the page.
Absolutely.
Before it just becomes like, this is
extra
unreadable.
noise.
Like I can't.
You're right. I mean,
understand
there was
this.
a tab book or the music book that I bought that had tabs, but it was for a bass player named Michael Mannering, and Michael does all sorts of like wacky stuff. You know, he's a guy who has one tune on his album where he's playing like 3 basses at the same time. You know, and he's like tapping between all those hitting a drone. And, he's doing stuff like that. He's nuts,
crazy.
So when he wrote his book, he literally had to invent like 15 new symbols to explain what he was doing.
What do you think we did like in the beginning of Ukulele on the Ground for all those uke minutes? Like I didn't know like how to like explain a lot of the stuff that I did, and that's why like we came up with words like whatever strum or this, you know, like
G-string pull off.
Like it's, you know, it was kind of crazy because there's nothing like there was nothing before, and you know, like I'm sure like. Chuck was a thing, and we were like, but I didn't know. I didn't know about it. I'm like, oh, chunk, maybe. I guess it's chunk, like dunka chunka. That's why I'm like, okay, chunk. I guess we just call it chunk. There was no, you know, or all finger, like mute, you know, like mute pluck, four finger mute pluck.
We'll just call it that.
You know, and some people ask this too about like when they come into my store and ask about, oh, how do I learn?
Yeah.
You know, one thing I tell them is that the ukulele is such a young instrument, and for most of its life has been basically kind of confined to like Hawaii and like the Hawaiian music scene. So, you know, unlike say a violin or a guitar or a piano, it hasn't been around long enough for someone to write the book yet. Yeah, and it's people like you guys who have done a lot to help write that book. But that, I mean, that's a good example of that, because if you think about, say, you know, piano or keyboard playing back in, say, Mozart's day, I'm sure there was a ton of stuff he was doing that people were like, what is that?
Yeah, we need to invent something.
We need to say a name for that.
I
mean, as a bass player, I kind of know this one. You know, one method people use for learning to play upright bass is called the Simandl method. It's named after Franz Simandl, a bass player. And it's actually the technique of his teacher, Domenico Dragonetti. And a lot of that was Simandl taking lessons and hearing exactly like that. This was like, Dragonetti, what are you doing? He said, I just do this. Yeah. Do you have a name for that? No, I just do it. So Simandl was like,
I just from my own notes, I'm just gonna write it down as this.
I'll just call it this for the book, I guess. I don't know. You know, but you know, that's the thing with ukulele, and there's going to be a lot of that. I mean, the next 10 years of ukulele are probably going to have even more.
Yes,
as people keep.
I think we just put up Senior Victor, and like, and I just showed like some stuff that I didn't really know how to explain before. Like I've never seen people do some of those techniques that I did. I did like that, like this, you know, like this kind of hi-hat hit with the A string, you know, with just like a flick of the finger. So what 2-finger flick is what I, you know, 2-finger triplet flick is what I would call it, because it's 2 fingers and it's like a triplet, and it's I'm flicking my fingers. Like, that's how I name
call
things.
It what you name it.
I'm like an appliance namer. Like, what does it do? It keeps things fresh. It's a fresher.
Fresh keeper.
Yeah, fresh keeper.
So that's, you know, that's a thing. You're gonna the next, you know, and you think about guys, other great players, like, for instance, you know, we were talking. I was listening to the podcast with Ben from last week.
Oh yeah, Ben.
And it just is a name that pops into my head. What if you asked James Hill to tell you everything he's doing? Do you think he actually has a?
Do you notate the chopsticks?
Well, exactly. You know what I mean?
What brand of chopsticks do you use exactly?
You know, is there that though? Yeah. Is there a specific brand he finds has worked well? But like, if you asked him to explain it, he explains it. I watched some videos of him online explaining, but he's more explaining what he's doing. Oh, I'm adding this now. Now I'm adding this. Now I'm adding this. I'm going to do that with that. But if you were to try and write out a James Hill, or if you were to write out Billie Jean, your brain would explode. Trying to figure out how he's doing all that at once. And I would probably bet if you ask James, there's a million of these little tricks, techniques he has that he doesn't have a name for. He just does it.
Isn't a lot of drum music, like drum kit music, like they write out the basic rhythm, but it doesn't necessarily tell you like what you're hitting the snare on this beat, you're hitting the kick on this, you're hitting the hi-hat, the ride, all that.
Really depends. Really depends. So let's this is my expertise. So in jazz, if you're reading a big band jazz chart, say take the A Train or something from the Duke on Uke book, they yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have them, they're not going to notate out what you play over everybody's solo, because it's going to be a swing beat. So make the swing beat whatever you think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now there are certain things that are definitely going to be in there. Really, ride cymbals, dan, 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 dan. Hi-hat's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bass and snare drum, kind of depends.
Like they want the most important parts of what makes that a song.
Yeah.
But then the other parts is like kind of use your own judgment.
Add your
now,
flourishes. I
have also played big band charts where the drums is literally notated note for note the entire song. Because say it's a much more tightly syncopated chart, where the cymbal crashes are linked to like a certain trumpet hit and this and that. So it kind of goes back and forth. There are definitely charts I've seen where it's just like, here's 8 bars and then it's repeat signs here pretty much every time,
just
unless
do the
it's like
same
a break
beat for 8 bars.
Yeah, and then
But
just
you're
do it for the other next 48 bars.
Yeah.
And then I've also seen charts where everything is written out note for note to the times. A good example of that is if you ever do musicals, Broadway musicals type stuff. No, there is very little to no like ambiguity in it. It is legit written out. This on this and of 3, that's where the snare needs to be. And if it's on 3 or on 4, you're doing it wrong. The bass parts are like that. The guitar parts. I've seen the Wedding Singer show. I've seen the books for that. It's 3 guitars. And the show is 2.5 hours long. There's not one chord symbol in any of the 3 books. Not one. Every chord is written out in notation and rhythm.
Each one has a purpose. Each note has a purpose.
The voice, the specific voicing. It's like, this is a C chord, but I need you to voice the C chord exactly this way because the next 2 guitars are going to be doing that, and it all has to match.
So, okay, my own question. So, not to deviate too far away, but you mentioned swing. I get a lot of questions and stuff, and I can't really explain like the swing feel because I tell them that's exactly what it is. It's a feel. You kind of have to like feel the swing. You're feeling going behind the beat. But I know you're very experienced in in swing and stuff. How do you explain to ukulele players like how to play how to play swing, or like what where you are exactly in the beat?
Okay, so there's 2 ways I would do this. If the person has some music training, then you think of it okay, sorry, nerd moment. You're gonna think of it as 8th note triplets as a quarter note and an 8th note. Okay, so it's long, short, long, short, long, short, long.
Oh, right? Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Sorry, explain.
Now for those, because he reads music, so he understands what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Now, for those of you out there who absolutely have no music training of that sort, syllables. Try this. Go la 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 and sing a scale up and down.
La 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 la. Okay,
now la 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 would be the classical way to think of it.
Yeah.
Okay, even 8th notes. Now, and this is gonna sound a weird word. Do be, and so sing the scale. Do be do. Okay.
Doobie 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 doo.
So all the do's are long and the b's are short. So if you learn to relax on it, doobie 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 doo.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. When I taught for the Hawaii Youth Symphony, I had a quartet of string players that was supposed to get to play I Let a Song Go Out of My Heart by Duke Ellington. And they were just the stiffest kids. God love them all. They were great kids and really, really tried hard. But man, trying to get them to go from, the melody. If you don't da 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 da, they came out like this. Ba 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba. It's da da do da ba 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 do ba 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 da do 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 ba.
Like, and it kind of goes back to right, like if you just practice with a metronome, then you might know that one where it's all on the beat,
right?
But then
perfectly segmented equally.
But then when you just kind of played it where it just flows better and it's so much more listenable, and that's kind of like I don't know. I guess if you're going for like an EDM ukulele player, then sure, go ahead, make it all on the beat.
And gosh knows, in the next few years, that may happen. Guys.
There is Amos Lim. He does some EDM stuff on ukulele, so check him out on YouTube.
See, that's the way it's gonna be, man. Guys are gonna go.
So if I were to to translate that over to ukulele for those of you folks who are looking to play swing and stuff, if you're strumming on your ukulele, you can think of the down strum as the long do, and then the up as B. So do be do. That's thank you, Mike. That makes it so much easier for me to explain to people, because it's because we've always been trying to tell people that it's this, you're not going da 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 da.
Right.
There's a swing to it,
Now the other factor of this to remember is swing in general is a very relaxed music. Okay, so it's not long, short, long, short, long, short, long. That's why I use the syllable do be do be do be do, because those are very long and smooth syllables anyway. So you can't really go do be do be do. I guess you could, but you shouldn't.
It sounds like if you put it. It sounds like if you put it through a computer, right? Like a computer. They don't have information.
That is kind of what you would get. But for those of you who are interested in do ba do ba do ba do.
You have no idea how many times I've had that question, because I've always said okay, you want to use strumming, but you want to put a little bit of swing to it because it's not it's not supposed to be even. And then every time I say that in a video, I will guarantee get a mail hey, what do you mean by swing? I'm swing it. I don't know, because it's a feel. To me, it's a feel.
There's a bunch of different analogies too, right? There's the idea that you're walking with one leg that's kind of not, you're dragging one leg, so it's drag, hit, drag, hit, drag, or the egg rolling down a mountain where it's long, and then it hits that point of the egg or the bottom of the egg, and it speeds up, and then it slows down, speeds up. So it kind of you really gotta find what works for you. What in your head will translate to you playing okay, I am playing with that feeling.
I do find that the verbal syllable thing works really well for most people.
Is
because you can literally sit there and do that. Say it, do be do be do be do be do be.
And just use your hands.
And then you can kind of hear whether your hands actually matching what's coming out of the ukulele.
Oh, that's a good one. I don't think I've heard that one.
A round of applause. Kid is good. Kid is good.
Can we get to Alan's question?
Yeah, sure.
He asked in the chat when you were talking about soloing. He said that in a group performance coming up, he's gonna be taking a solo, and in practice, he came up with something that he kind of likes, but he doesn't think that he's gonna do it exactly the same way again. Should he try to add that in there during the performance, or just play in the moment?
I think just play in the moment. Take whatever good ideas came from whatever you were practicing and stuff. And that's what practice is for, is just to come up with ideas, so that when you're in the moment, whatever feels right, you go back to those ideas and you kind of think about what what worked, what didn't work, what what you liked and what you didn't like. So if you played a good solo and stuff, and you think you think that really works, you're not gonna remember that note for note, and I don't think you should. It'll then become that kind of robotic thing that we were talking about earlier, some written music and stuff. Solos in that sense, but I'm guessing in this particular situation is an improvisation. So if you're improving, then you can take ideas that you've had before and just build on top of them.
I think it's this is just me, but I think I have such a hard time when I have that. I'll learn something or I'll figure something out. I'll be like, that is so good. I'm gonna use that the next time situation comes up where that'll fit. And I'm like so excited, and for the whole song I'm thinking it's coming up, I'm gonna play it, and then I mess up, right? It was like, oh no, it's all downhill. So for me it's just like easier if I'm like, oh, that was cool, file it away for later, and then just like while it's happening like live, it's like, oh, this fits in, oh, it works, it's perfect. Because otherwise you're not thinking about in the moment of like when you're actually playing, kind of. You're thinking of the future, and for me it just ends up messing it up, making it worse.
Yeah, it's just, play whatever you're feeling at the moment. It's a spur of the moment kind of thing. If those notes feel good, then play those notes. But if some other notes might sound or feel better with some other notes, sometimes it's just one note, sometimes it's like 10, 20 notes.
Also, if you're doing a group performance, Alan.
Yeah. He said it's a blues song too.
Okay. So. One thing to remember though is that too, you can practice something really, really awesome, but what happens if someone plays a different voicing of a chord? That all of a sudden that cool thing doesn't sound good as good as it did before. You kind of have to be like in a flow. I guess it's a weird analogy, but. The great boxer Rocky Marciano, when he used to go he had his plan, but, as another boxer would say, all your plans go out the door when you get punched in the face. But he would go in and he had a plan, but the plan was never set in stone. It always depended on what happened when that first punch came at him.
He beat Joe Louis.
He beat Joe Louis, and that was another guy. Joe Louis was another guy who really knew how to adapt what he did to the guys he was fighting. If he knew they were strong on this side, man, he just stayed away from that side.
Yeah.
Even though that normally against other guys, he would come to this side because he knew he could get around what they were doing.
Yeah, adapt.
Adapt, and really for music, the art side of music.
I think improvising is like one of those things where it's just you can kind of like practice, but the best practice you'll get is in improvising with like other people or being in that moment and improvising, because it's like you can only prepare so much, right? And when you're in that, then that's it. It's like go time kind of, and you're just like
you just got to do it.
Yeah,
you just got to do it. And that's a mental block for a lot of people. It's a mental block for a lot of people. It's like, I don't want to do it wrong. Yeah. And we get to that thing, paralysis by analysis. You worry too much about what you're doing, you don't do anything.
And boom, you get punched in the face.
And then boom, you get punched in the face.
In the face.
And I think it comes out in the music, right? You can hear when somebody is thinking, okay, what are the safe notes? What notes do I play next? Like in an improv. Versus somebody who's just like playing, and then if they hit a wrong note, they're like, "Oh, you just gotta switch it over to the right one or whatever." Yeah. So
or like we advised in the some of the earlier talks about improvisation. If you play a wrong note, play it a couple more times.
Yeah.
Make people think that's what you're meant to do.
It's jazz. It's kind of because you played a wrong note, but the audience doesn't need to know that you played a wrong note.
Yeah.
And how many times have we? I think we've all had this probable experience jamming with people, and you play something you totally didn't mean to play. But after the song's done, somebody's like, "Man, that was cool. How'd you do that?"
Yeah, it's a sick note. I was like, "Yeah, it was sick. That was not well."
That's one thing that I noticed because Aldrine and I play every week, and we play pretty much the same songs or same set of songs. Like it kind of fluctuates, but we play a lot of songs over and over and over again. And over time, you notice that Aldrine's the note choices kind of evolve, so like you'll play something weird one week, and then sometimes you'll try it again, sometimes you'll throw it away
if it doesn't work.
So and it's for the same song, it's a solo for the same song, and then so he'll keep certain things and he'll never do it ever again. Other things.
I did something last night where I think I was playing something on the A string, and like it did that, and I missed it, and then I did another line, and I did it again, just to make it, make it like, oh, okay, that was part of the thing, but it just sounded really cool afterwards. I'm like, maybe I want to do that on purpose
if it lands on the beat.
It's right. It's right.
Repetition legitimizes, right?
Yeah.
Like you just keep doing it.
It's I guess you meant to do that.
I know there's people who they'll use like loopers, and then they'll loop and they mess up and it's like a 4 and or something, like 4 and 5, and then it goes back to 1, and they're like, well, like they don't want us to be like, okay guys, stop, I gotta
throw away the whole thing.
I don't want to give too much away, but on the on the next one, did you include that in there, Aaron? Like the
no.
Okay. I just okay.
Well, that one was like a specific note choice, right?
Yeah.
But like, I've heard
I included part of it.
Oh yeah, okay. And we're talking about the next challenge video. So for those of you folks
Ukulele
who are fans of the new show, the Ukulele Challenge show, we did 2 more episodes, so they're coming. But in this next one, I was asking if he kept the part where you'll know when it comes. I don't want to give it away. It's a good episode.
This is a very high level like thing to be able to do is like good musicians, if they're looping and they like miss the loop or they chop off a beat or something, they won't like stop and be like, okay guys, I gotta restart the loop.
I've seen that happen.
Yeah, but it's like,
well, he said good play.
Like,
Dave Ukulele
I don't know
if
you can find this video, but John Mayer, he was doing Gravity and I think he missed like the and or something.
Yeah.
And he's like, I missed it. I'm just gonna keep playing though, anyways. And it's like
3.5.
Yeah, and it's like you still hear Gravity though. Yeah. It doesn't. He's able to adapt to that.
Well, I mean, you just learned that in kind of a way too. Stevie Wonder in 3.
Oh yeah. The other week when we played with Rapakona, and he was playing Stevie Wonder in 3. I was like, what? Then I can fit the notes in.
What was it? Like, Isn't She Lovely?
Yeah, Isn't She Lovely?
But in 3/4 time.
Yeah, in 3/4 time. I was like, what? Why is he playing it like that? But then I mean, if it's like a mistake and stuff, like you can adapt. I remember at the NAMM show you said like because we were watching Aiden James, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I thought I caught something, but I think Aaron caught it more than I did, because I know you said that he kind of restarted his loop, but he did it in a way where like he didn't really notice unless you're really paying attention that like that he restarted his loop. I think because he kept playing, but he stopped the loop and then just made like a whole new one while playing still. So it's like there's people who do it good, and I'm not gonna name the people who don't do it that well, but there are players that don't do it that well.
Well, that's just comes with experience.
Yeah. And Aiden is one,
and
of
also
best.
Sometimes being a showman too, knowing how to be a showman, is also knowing how to get yourself out of a really tough spot. Like, oh, I'm in a place that I don't want to be.
We were talking about magic, and we were talking about how if you make a mistake, like good magicians, they make a mistake and then they're like, okay, I'm gonna run with it. But bad magicians kind of like, oh, don't look,
don't look, I messed up. Oh my god.
And the saying in magic is like, don't run if there's nobody chasing you, right? And so they're like trying to cover things, and by trying to cover it up even more, it draws more attention to it. Like being I think being a good musician is like being comfortable with mistakes. It's gonna happen eventually, right? And you just gotta be like, let it roll, right? Like you know, try not to fight it or anything. If it happens, it happens. Yeah. And the better you can just like let it happen or keep going with it, then that kind of like makes you a better musician in the end.
Well, it's kind of what you said, like be in that moment.
The
moment that mistake happened is behind you already. If you dwell on that,
it's true.
What do you think? You're thinking about something that's not happening.
I think I've heard Nietzsche say that before. I think that's a Nietzsche quote. Okay. I'm not sure. I heard it from a goat herder one of these one day.
Oh, okay.
All right, guys. Well, it is time to bid adieu to all of you folks. We have kind of gone every time we have a guest come in. We always want to go over time because we want to get as much information from them as possible. And Mike came in here. It wasn't any kind of question specific to Mike, but he always brings it. Mike is always here. So how about a round of applause? Thank you so much, Mike, for coming down. Thank you. And thank you for sharing your knowledge. Always willing to share with the ukulele on the ground people. But he gets
I'm a receptacle of useless knowledge. Fun fact.
That's what podcasts are for.
Fun fact. Mufasa and Sarabi from The Lion King are the king and queen from Coming to America.
That blew my mind.
Can we officially change this podcast name to Receptacle of Useless Knowledge. I think that is such a good name.
RUK instead of TLL or something.
All right, guys. We'll see folks next time. Stick around for one-on-one coaching. If you guys don't know where to go on your front page on the dashboard. There should be a little flag at the top. Whenever it's time, you can just click on that and join us in the Zoom room. Tomorrow we have Aloha Friday Live Jam, so come jam with us. And after that, for those people who are signed up for the private lessons, I'll see you then. But check out all the awesome stuff over at ukuleleunderground.com. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you folks next time. Aloha.